What superhero didn't always fly is the question that I will answer by the end of this show. Hello and welcome to another episode of The More You Know Mondays. The more you know, the more you grow. And this week on the show, I'm going to be talking about Nintendo. But before the Nintendo that we currently know, I'm going to be talking about the startings of Nintendo. But before we get into that, you know what we have to do? We have to start off this show right. And it's been a week. I know, guys, I'm really sorry. I had to take a week off because it was a longness. I was editing the show, the visual show for last week's episode, which I still want to release because it took me so much time and I put so much effort into producing it and editing it and adding all these extra flares and making animations and stuff like that. But because, I don't know, I'm going to have to find a way to get this, export the file off my computer. But unfortunately right now, I'm having a bit of a problem getting the file off my computer. Not even off the computer, off the program that I made it off. I think it's because the format of the file is too big and I don't have enough RAM on my computer to export the file, which is tragic because I thought it was a dope video. Like I said, I put animations in the video and all sorts. So what's this? So yeah, but anyway, as we always do at the start of the week, is we start off the week right with some Monday affirmations. And you know, every week I do this in the form of a quote, and this week is unlike any other week. I think I got that wrong again. I think I got it right for the very first time 1 week ago. But anyway, we'll try again. So this week on the show, this quote that we're going to be talking about this week, the quote's by Wayne Dyer, and it goes like this. With everything that has happened to you, you can either feel sorry for yourself or treat what has happened as a gift. Everything is either an opportunity to grow or an obstacle to keep you from growing. So you choose. And I really like that quote because it's quite inspiring in the sense, similar to the quote that I talked about last week, in the sense of everything or every situation that you kind of find yourself in, whatever you want to say for the reason and then why you're in that situation, you made the choice. And when bad things do happen to you, it's very hard to fall into a place of, oh no, this bad thing has happened. How do I get out of this place? And I guess if you choose to see this bad thing as such a thing that knocks you down, and you choose to accept those consequences for those actions, then that's your choice. But it doesn't have to be. You could choose to see this failure as an opportunity to grow. You can look deeper into the reasons why you might have failed and think about, okay, cool. So these are the reasons why I didn't succeed in these things. How can I improve on myself and make myself better, or develop or invest, or I can't think of what the word is, but you need to supply yourself with some seeds in order to grow. And these seeds have to be from a positive place. It can't be, you can't find growth from negativity. You can see where you need to grow from the negativity, but you can't plant seeds of negativity and think you're going to grow this beautiful apple tree, because it's not going to happen, unfortunately. So I think what it is that you need to take away from this is that sometimes what happens or how things happen are down to you and the choices that you make and how you choose to see a situation. Sometimes things aren't as bad as you make them out to be when you can see the possibility of some sort of an escape or a way of getting out of where you are. But when you find yourself in a situation where you don't see an opening or you don't see a way out, then this is where, I guess, times of negative thoughts pass through your mind. But I feel that the best option for moving forward and the way I try to live my life is through positive vibes. So try that and, take these bad things that happen to you as an opportunity to see where you can grow from this bad thing. See where you can grow from the failure instead of wallowing in self-pity. Figuring out how you can grow or get to a higher place from the bottom of the mountain instead of looking up at the mountain and thinking, do you know what? That mountain is hella high. Like, do you know what? I don't need to climb that mountain. It's not worth it. Well, I can tell you that it's 100% worth it if you put the time and effort into it, because you'll reap the benefits of the hard work, and you always do. So never give up. Never see a closed door as something that you can't get through. It just means that it just means that door is closed. But it doesn't mean that every door that you'll ever come up to will always be locked. So look forward, stay positive, and those are my Monday affirmations for this week. But as I was stating at the top of the show, this week I will be talking about Nintendo, but before the new current Nintendo. And when I mean before the current Nintendo, I mean like right now we're in the era of Nintendo Switch, and I wish I brought my Nintendo Switch down because then I could just put it up on screen, but I don't have it here on me right now while I'm recording. But I have a Nintendo Switch, and it is the most fun console that I have ever invested money into. And that's one thing that I can say about Nintendo, is that they're a company that kind of oblivious, not, I don't want to say oblivious, but aside from all the competition, they're kind of in their own league, in the sense of they don't make games for the graphics being 100, maybe the best, or anything like that, or they're trying to push the envelope like you see in like the Sonys on the PlayStation or on the Xbox. But what the Nintendo do bring to you is fun. And also they bring a whole library of games that they have created. And that's one thing that you can say about Nintendo, aside from any other game company in the industry, is that they have this huge library of games that they have made. And other than made and kind of popularized and gone global, if we want to talk about like the most famous that I can think of off the top of my head, I can just start with like Mario, Donkey Kong, The Legend of Zelda, Pokemon. Like, guys, like there would be no Pokemon without Nintendo. Like, that's crazy for me. Like, even the fact of, I think it was last year, was it 2020, where Pokemon had 25 years of Pokemon. And like, hearing that 25 years of Pokemon, I'm older than Pokemon. That's how bizarre it is. Like, I'm 4 years older than Pokemon. That's mad. Like, so like, also it makes me feel kind of old because I grew up in the era of Pokemon. But also, before I get too deep into this topic, I would also like to give a shout out to my work colleague. Alex, because if it wasn't for her, like just when I came into work one day, she was like, Kory, did you know that my Nintendo started in the 1800s? And I was like, no, I did not know that Nintendo started in the 1800s. I hadn't really looked too deep into the history of Nintendo, but I now will do for this episode. So shout out to Alex. I should have done it last week because there was meant to be an episode last week, but like I said, top of the show, there was an issue. What is the word? Production? I can't think of the word. It's gone from my head. Construction error. I can't think of the phrase. It's literally just been lifted from my brain. That's crazy. But yeah, there was development. I can't think of the phrase. Oh my days. This is going to bother me for the entire show. And then like, I'm going to finish recording and then I'm just going to be doing something random, like making my dinner or something. And then suddenly I'm going to be like, oh my days, this is the word that I was looking for. But it's going to be too late. Captain Hindsight would have been striking again. Damn it. But anyway, shout out to Alex if I haven't already said that 3 times. And let's get on back to the show. So yeah, Nintendo. Nintendo started in 1889. And to put into context kind of what was kind of happening around that time in 1889 in the rest of the world. So if we want to flip over to the UK, around 1888, I think, was when Jack the Ripper was prevalent in Whitechapel. I mean, and then we flip all the way over to the other side of the world and we've got Nintendo starting up. Like, Nintendo was founded as Nintendo Karuta. And that was on the 23rd of September, 1889. And when they first started, it was started by, and excuse me with this pronunciation, but it was founded by a craftsman by the name of Fusajiri Yakamuri. Yakucha? Sorry, I said it incorrectly. And he was in a town in Kaito in Japan. And the company around this time, they were producing mainly different variety types of Japanese playing cards. And the name Nintendo is commonly assumed to mean leave luck to heaven. And I mean, if that's what the name means in Japanese, then that's exactly what they're doing. They leave it up. They innovate. They create a crazy cool concept in a game console. Take the Nintendo Switch for example, and then they release it, and they're just like, well, we'll see how it goes. And usually 9 times out of 10, Nintendo are onto a winner. And with the way how they started, this is kind of no real different in the sense of like, they kicked it off with trading cards almost 100 years before I was born. Wait, hang on. I mean, in the sense of like, when I was born, Nintendo had been around for 100 years and they've been kicking butt and innovating from playing cards to game consoles and toys. But it wasn't always high flying for them, in the sense of, like I said, they started with playing cards, and it was around the 19, wrong era, around the 1860s, in Japan, or even, card games were very popular in Japan due to gambling, and throughout the 1600s, until they cut off contact with the Western world in 1633 and banned all playing cards. So because the banning of playing cards were kind of on and off in Japan, the founder of Nintendo, Mr. Fuzuyori Yamachi, when he came out with his trading cards or his playing cards, he had to do something different. He couldn't just come out with the typical playing cards. No. He sold handcrafted Hanafuda painted on mulberry tree bark. And what really popularized his trading cards was the fact of each game had many different rules and took a while to kind of catch on. And an interesting quote or interesting fact that I found was that the Yakuza began using Hanafuda in gambling parlors, and card games started becoming very popular in Japan. So a lot of the original playing cards, they contained a lot of images, and they were very pretty looking from what I'm looking at. But I don't know, that to me, like, I wouldn't figure out a game, but I'm sure like every game you could figure out like a game that you could play with them, which, I mean, it's the creativeness from the beginning that I find so interesting, that they were already, or the founder of Nintendo was already thinking outside of the box, thinking that I need to make something different that will stand out, that people can invent their own games for. So what kind of, I guess, blew up their card game was Nintendo continued making playing cards well throughout like World War II. And in 1959, Hiroshi Yamachi, who was the president of Nintendo at the time, he partnered up with Walt Disney Productions, and they started creating playing cards and toys with Disney in Japan. Now, this combination of these two companies was huge. Like, huge. Like, they started making playing cards for Disney, making toys for Disney in Japan, and it's a way how you could get Disney's market out in Japan, and the way how Nintendo could get their market out into North America. Now, this huge impact was especially important for games that were created by Shigeru Miyamoto. And for anyone that isn't up on their Nintendo knowledge, he was the creator of some of the most popular games from Nintendo in Nintendo history, such as Super Mario, Legend of Zelda, just to mention a few. And what I find interesting about some of my research that I've gone into is that Nintendo are kind of the trendsetter that kind of, like I said, thought outside of the box and how they could keep the gaming industry alive. So when they had the video game crash back, we were talking about it last week or the week before last in Atari's episode, this is when Nintendo, the reason why there was a crash was there was an influx of companies creating games, which was amazing, obviously, for the industry. But unfortunately, with all these influxing of games, a lot of these games that were being made were just not very good. So with there being an influx of bad games, it would have forced, I assume, like people playing games to just be like, whoa, hang on. I spent all this money playing this game, it's trash. Like, why should I invest into gaming? And then Nintendo, they start making games that have a story. And ergo, Legend of Zelda and Pokemon and all these other game titles that we all have grown to love as household names. But if it wasn't for the dip and them trying to reinvent the business so that it could have longevity, and it's more interesting to know the longevity also of their company, that they've spanned over 150 years and they're still going strong. It's kind of an inspiration for any other company, I guess, out there, like, who creates things for the people. Because that's what I feel like Nintendo are a company for. They're for the people. And although they are kind of closed off with their intellectual property, and I mean, that's fair because that's kind of what sets them aside from all these other big names. Not sure if you guys heard that too, but I'm not sure what that was. But I digress. We move on forward into the next frontier. Don't worry about what I'm talking about because I don't even know myself. I'm just saying words. And the words that were coming out were those words. But anyway, Nintendo. Yeah, it's pretty interesting just to think that Nintendo have been running for over 150 years and they've still been able to innovate. I thought it was also interesting to find out that before they actually started working on toys, they also had a taxi company and they used to sell ramen. And unfortunately, these were failed ideas, but, at least they tried. If their taxi company have kicked off, their Nintendo taxis could have been the very first Uber. Just saying, we don't know what could have happened. And if that business model had have taken off, would we have ever had a Nintendo game console? I mean, these are valid questions, and possibly if you believe in alternate universes, then in an alternate universe, this could be a thing. When Nintendo made it big with taxi companies, and the rest was history. Like when Uber came out in that alternate universe, Nintendo had some partnership with Uber. In fact, do you know what? Nintendo bought Uber. Jeez. Anyway, this is like, I need to do like a graphic novel of some of my thoughts. If you're a graphic novel maker and you hear this part of my podcast, send me a DM on Instagram. Let's get working. I've got some crazy ideas, and sometimes I think that it would be very well, better received is probably the word, in a visual form, but I can't draw. So maybe I'm going to reach out to a graphic designer, illustrator, whatever they are. Cool. Do some research and find out what I need. And yeah, that'd be cool. But anyway, Nintendo, I went off on a tangent because I had that noise and then I had to have a break because there was a few things that weren't working and then my internet was crashing. It was all a thing. But this is only a brief episode because briefly before we hit maybe the 1970s, that's when the history of gaming and electronic gaming comes into play. But all before that, we have, as I was saying, the Nintendo Instant Rice Company that failed, where they had a venture of selling packaged rice. Or they also had, another funny thing that I've just read now, they had a chain of love hotels. And a love hotel is a type of short stay hotel found all around the world, operating primarily for the proposal of allowing guests privacy for sexual activity. Then why call it the Love Hotel? The name originates from Hotel Love in Osaka, which was built in 1968. And that's all I'll say about that, because that sounds like an interesting thing to do an episode on. Love hotels. Whoa, man. Never heard of that. We're definitely doing an episode on that. And they also had, like I said, a taxi service, which was named Daiya, which is spelled Daiya. Like I said, for the most part, these ventures were unsuccessful. But they were all, I guess, stepping stones to Nintendo figuring out that these otherworldly aspects wasn't for them, or wasn't for them then in that market. I mean, now they're big players in the game. No pun intended. Nintendo. Pundo. I got the puns though. Man's got the puns though. Man's got the puns though. Oh, that would be a banger. Don't watch this space. Experience it. Quotes by Kory. But yeah, we're going to be wrapping up this episode because I thought it was just briefly interesting to just mention on the fact of Nintendo are a company that have been around for 150 years, and they are going to be around for maybe 150 years longer. They will definitely outgrow and outlive me, but I'm interested to see where they will go from where we are now, because we're in an interesting space where we're having, I guess, mobile gaming is kind of real big at this moment in time. I saw a figure through my research that said that I think gaming was made about $50 billion last year, or maybe it was in like 2019, and the video or research I was reading was published in 2020. So yeah, they said last year, so I was just like, yeah, last year, but last year meaning 2019, I believe. But anyway, mobile gaming accounted for about 50% of that revenue share, which is it works out about $68 billion or something like that. Crazy numbers, crazy figures, monies that most of us will never see in our lives. We will only see on a piece of paper that we have written down ourselves as an affirmation to ourselves, saying, one day I'm going to have $1 billion or £1 billion. Watch this space. And hey man, things like that work. You don't know until you try. And then you believe it when it happens. But anything can happen. That's how the world works. And it's not just that, I guess, Nintendo aren't really in the mobile gaming space, but they are kind of king of the handheld. And with their new Nintendo Switch being both handheld and able to dock so that you can play on the TV, I mean, they've kind of hit the nail on the head on pleasing both sides, pleasing the handheld community while also giving the handheld community the option where they can play their game on the TV, on the big screen, and share it with friends. Like, if you haven't got a Nintendo Switch, I recommend picking one up. if you can find one. I managed to get one, I think February last year, and that was all because like Apple and Epic were having this beef. I guess more Epic were having the beef with Apple. That's kind of pretty interesting mentioning it right now, because I believe right now they're in court. I need to catch up on finding out about what's happening with that, because that's always interesting, because maybe I'll touch on an episode once the case is over and everything like that, because whatever happens with this case will affect gaming forevermore. So it's a pinnacle case in history. I believe that this will be something that will be talked about forevermore to come. The Epic and Apple battle. But yeah, I promised you that I would answer this question by the end of the show. And the question was, which superhero didn't originally fly? Now, I think it'd be kind of ironic and funny to find this out, but the original comic book for Superman had Superman not flying, but instead he could leap from tall buildings in one single bound. But then he had to come right back down to Earth. So like he would have to go like jump up to Krypton and then jump back down to Earth again. And I guess for the animators at the time, this seemed like a lot of drawing of Superman bending down and jumping back up again. So around the 1940s, which was when they decided that it would be easier to just make Superman fly. And then the legend was born. The flying, red-caped Superman. And I mean, that was really a hit with the readers at the time, having Superman flying instead of him leaping in one single bound. So I hope that was interesting for you, finding out that Superman, maybe one of your favorite superheroes, didn't always fly. It was something that the animators wanted to make their lives easier. And they were like, do you know what? Superman continually bending down and then jumping in one single bound was great in the first, in the first, I guess, drawing board when they first, figured him out. But he needs something more super. He needs to be able to fly. So, yeah. He gained his new superhero power, and flying Superman was born. But I hope that was a fun fact for you, finding out that Superman didn't originally fly. He used to just jump in one large bound. But anyway, I'll call that the end of the show. So I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode, where I've talked about a brief prehistory of Nintendo before we know of Nintendo's. I think I'll call this episode trading cards with Nintendo. Just because it sounds punny, and not that I'm trading any cards with Nintendo, but Nintendo used to make trading cards, so I thought that'd be interesting. But yeah, hopefully you have enjoyed this episode this week. Like I said, I'm going to try and export the file for the video of this last week onto this week and release it at some point. If I can get off my computer, get it off the application, then I'll make it happen. But if not, I'm trying something different this week. Hopefully that works. Moving forward, and we will try that until I can afford to get myself a new computer. So yeah. or I guess not just afford, I can afford it, but it's just whether it's worth me buying a new computer now or waiting until Apple brings out the next version of their computers, because they usually bring out a new computer every year, and then wait until they bring out their next computers like the M2s and that, and then I find out, like, I guess the price for the 2020 M1s will be a little bit cheaper, or maybe not, because, you know, Apple products also hold their value. And like, I guess Apple is another company that's kind of similar to Nintendo in the sense of they own their intellectual property, and they're not often open to sharing with others, because they make a lot of their own hardware and software. But yeah, that's enough about these global giants, and hopefully you enjoy the rest of your humble week. And if you are a millionaire, go you. If you're a thousandaire, go you. If you've only got £100, go you. And if you've only got £1, then you need to get your money up, but at least you got something to your name instead of nothing. I'm not sure if that was inspirational. I might turn it into a song. If you're a millionaire, go you. If you're a thousandaire, go you. If you got £100, go you. Even if you got £1, go you. I said a thousandaire, go you. Would you buy that song if I released it and actually thought about the lyrics past the chorus? Let me know in the comments, or DM us on social media, or drop us a comment, or yeah, man. Let us know if you like this episode. Drop us a review on Apple. And the more you know, the more you grow, and we will be back next week for a show. Thank you for listening.